We as sponsors and developers are always trying to push the envelope. So we want to do cool, creative, different things. I'm learning and experiencing how important illumination is. If the space is not lit properly, it's not going to look good. With a developer, yes, you're in business to make money, but the things that we try to balance is we try to really find the right deal. You have to have conviction. You have to believe it. You have to be all in. You have to believe in the product. If you don't get it right early on and everybody's not aligned of what they need to do, things will go off the rails real fast. In real estate, everybody's trying to manage their risk, which we're going to talk about with lighting in a little bit. That to me is always going to be the baseline. You're trying to balance quality, you're trying to balance cost, and you're trying to balance time. And you can't cut a corner there. I don't know how lighting designers can actually give you that this is what it's really going to look like without looking at it. It's very hard. Lighting is very in situ, right? It's got to be here. And I think technology is always evolving, and they're giving us new gadgets and they're giving us new things that lighting does that we're like, oh, I want that shiny new toy. We've had so many issues with it. It almost needs the attention you give to the foundation of the structure or the facade. I wish I could just buy the fixtures and mock it up every single time.
This is my favorite part of this conversation. We're going to switch chairs because I know that you have questions. I want to be genuinely a resource to you and any question you have.
How do lighting designers
Welcome to the LytePOD, built by LyteEye, the #1 podcast for the people, process, and product of design, all with a little love for light along the way. I'm your host, Sam Koerbel, and today we are in an incredible space with an incredible mind, and I want to welcome Jamil Lacourt to the podcast. He's the Chief Operating Officer of L&L Holding. They are a luxury developer based out of New York City. They do commercial, Class A office space, residential. Honestly, they do everything. Today's an important conversation. It's one to get into the mind of a developer, a developing mindset. What's that budget? Where does that budget come from? What does the total outcome of a project really need to be? At the end of the day, these are all the questions we have. And I have a feeling that the developer probably has some questions for us too, the lighting community. What the heck do you do? No, I'm just kidding. Jamil, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for that awesome introduction. Really appreciate it. And super excited to be here with you today to talk about this important and fun topic.
We're sitting in New York City at Terminal Warehouse, one of your guys' most recent, I'd call probably coolest projects that you've ever done. This just combines everything. Let's see, what can I see from here? Old brick, new brick, steel, wood, glass, timber that certainly could hold an elephant, if not more. This space, this building, maybe I should just say this city block was inevitably a challenge for you guys. I want to talk certainly about what's going on here, but this is just an example of everything that you guys do. In 10 seconds, just kidding. Give us a rundown of where we're sitting and what this space means to you.
Yeah. So we're sitting in one of the most unique buildings here in New York. We call this a horizontal skyscraper just because you said it's a city block is really what it is. The biggest thing of this building is its authenticity. I think you mentioned it, right? You're looking at old and you're looking at new. So we took what used to be where the trains used to come in and bring goods into the city of New York, way back when, we transformed this building into a modern Class A office space, taking into account really embracing what was here. You mentioned the wood timbers, which has a lineage that goes back hundreds of years that we didn't even know. We had a specialist look at the specific wood and the timber and really what it does to the employee and how the employee feels with the timber. And then we brought the new in, right? We bought the new shiny glass overbuild that you'll see on the west side. So this building just breeds authenticity, coolness, richness. This used to be the Tunnel Club. So for those that are back in that age group, experienced the nightlife here at Terminal Warehouse, which is iconic, which is big for the city.
There's obviously a design aesthetic. There's an opportunity. There's, of course, money to be made, right? How many projects have you gotten to work on over the course of your career?
A lot. I'll give you a brief history on me and what my background is. I'm born and raised in New York, focused my college career in construction management, then led to project management. I've had the benefit of working all over the world. So I've done projects in Brazil, South America. I lived in Mexico City for a number of years, about 5 years, doing a very big iconic project there. Then I worked in California, Chicago. So I've always been in the real estate industry, really boots on the ground up to management. So I started as a field superintendent, didn't know anything about anything, didn't even know how to put a toilet in the wall, had no clue, learned on the job. Then I went into management, still in construction, and then I went to representing owners all over the world, and now I work for a developer, and I'm their chief operating officer. So you asked a really monumental question, right? How do we operate? How do we find the deal? Like, what's important to us, right? And with a developer, yes, you're in business to make money, but the things that we try to balance is we try to really find the right deal where we feel we could be opportunistic, pay the right land value or value for the asset. And then the question is, what's our vision and business plan for that particular asset? And then can we raise capital around it? Which is, I mean, that is like the most important piece is, can you raise capital around it? We're great visionaries. I work for two remarkable partners that have done this for a very long time, one being from a commercial brokerage background, and the other one is, I call him like a rainmaker. He's got a lot of capital relationships and knows how to structure deals. But really the sweet spot for us is buying at the right price. And people could always argue, did we pay more? And nobody ever says you paid less, so you didn't pay enough. Then what is our vision for that building? Here was to really attract a certain tenant. And are we bringing to market, because we sell space. That's what we do. That's what developers do. We build, sell, and create a community and environment for companies to house their employees and thrive. And then can we get the capital partners behind us that really believe in us and that we can execute that business plan and really bring something good to market and lease it, whether it's commercial or residential.
Mm-hmm. So you guys are pulling two main levers, right? It's the opportunity to create the satisfaction, but then the opportunity to create enough interest to fund that satisfaction.
Exactly.
Those go hand in hand. And as you mentioned, you've got a pair of partners, and that's really their wheelhouse, right?
Oh yeah.
I feel like we could do an entire podcast on unpacking, like raising capital and funding projects. We're a design podcast, so we'll leave the finance piece there. Maybe we'll touch on it a little bit throughout here. When you guys look at projects, where does your budget start?
It really starts at the infancy of when we find a deal. Because the biggest levers that go into a development are the acquisition cost, what you're paying for it. Then you'll look at what is it going to cost to build. And so that includes many line items, lighting being one of those line items in the hard cost. So very, very early on, we got to figure out how much do we pay for it? What is it going to cost to execute our vision from a consulting cost, from a construction cost? And then how long is it going to take us to bring to market, because you have carry and you have things like that. And then also we could do another podcast on financing, but you also have debt, interest rates, and all that thing that goes into the equation. But it's really playing like chess when you underwrite a deal. It's such a chess game. You have to have such accuracy and precision, and everybody has their own little technique. But to answer your question solidly, we look at cost very, very, very early on, because it is one of the biggest levers that you try to find equilibrium in a deal.
So you're working on a deal. You're trying to get money for it. You're trying to establish a cost for it. What does it look like to have to, throw a dart at the board? and predict all of this before anything really starts going.
None of us have a crystal ball to predict the future. I wish we did. Hopefully AI gets us there one day. But you're really making calculated, educated bets based on information you have. So you have to make the best decision you can with what you have available. And I think what people sometimes lose sight of is you have to have conviction. You have to believe it. You have to be all in. You have to believe in the product. I'm going to bring it to market. It's going to do well. I'm going to be able to lease it up. And so you really have to have believe in what you're doing is so important in this. I can't stress that enough, because if you're not all in, then it's you could almost be half-assing it a little bit. But I think that's the most important thing.
Being all in, you can define it. You put a budget. You mentioned there's consulting and there's construction. How do you guys split up your budget between those two big buckets?
Traditionally, just because of experience, you kind of know, just looking at soft cost consultants and hard costs, you're about 75% construction cost, 25% consulting cost. Now, again, that depends on the project, because like you said, construction is not an exact science, never was. I don't even think medical science is exact. So things do go wrong, but we have enough history and historical knowledge that we know what things cost depending on the asset class. Terminal warehouse was a different beast because it is so unique and so different, and the sheer volume of it is just ginormous. And so you have to use your cost metrics a little bit differently and proportionate them adequately to this type of asset. But I would say it's a lot of historical knowledge, and the 3/4 to quarter split is pretty consistent.
And when you look at that 3/4 to quarter split, is contingency within each one of those buckets, or do you actually pull out a bucket from the very beginning and kind of put it over to the side, not knowing where it's going to go?
Typically, we'll pull it out and hold our own contingency. So early on in the project, you don't know much, right? You haven't put pen to paper. You really haven't documented everything. Everything's kind of still back of the envelope, I would call it. And then as you advance in a deal and actually go hard and executing, and you have the capital, now we start documenting things. At that time, we'll start refining the contingency a little bit more, but we'll always hold our owner contingency. So we have our kind of safeguard pillow that we know, God willing, it doesn't get depleted, but we know it'll be used because construction is not an exact science. And then we may elect to hold a contingency with the contractor, and then we may do some smaller contingencies with the soft cost.
Do you rob the contingency vault based on emotion or is it purely analytical, or always reserved for the things you're not going to get out of?
Yeah, so, okay, I'm going to answer this from a developer and a contractor. I think the contractor thinks, yeah, it's there for me. I'm going to use it for everything. I'm not using my fee for anything. And they're going to just tap into that every single time they possibly can. No offense to the contractors that are listening to this, but they know it's true, most of them. And then on the developer side, our lenders and our partners put so many guardrails around us that there are strict rules how we can access contingency, what we use it for, when we transfer it. Sometimes they'll have us put more equity in the deal ourselves before we touch the contingency, because in real estate, everybody's trying to manage their risk, which we're going to talk about with lighting in a little bit. And everybody's trying to protect their downside, right? You're always trying to protect your downside. You're always trying to mitigate risk while trying to still execute a very good business plan and then get returns to the investors that you brought into the deal and promised a return to.
Who writes the business plan?
Typically, the developer does. On certain projects, we'll co-GP with another developer, and so we'll do it jointly because we have different skill sets and abilities, and we have different track records. Maybe a developer that we partner with specializes in hotels and we don't, but we know how to build. The developer will write the business plan. They have the vision. They've executed it before. They know what tenants in the market are looking for. They know the market better than anybody else. So the business plan will always originate with the developer. It'll be their vision to bring forth to an asset.
So you've got your business plan, the assets confirmed, the capital's raised. Where does the consulting team start to enter the picture?
Now we go, right?
How do you guys find, what are the consultants that you handpick first?
So we start with our architect because we got to understand what this volume of building is going to look like. We'll really start with them, our land use attorney, and maybe a code consultant here in New York City particularly. because it is still very bureaucratic. We need code consultants to help us navigate zoning regulations, building department requirements that are ever changing here in New York. And a lot of these buildings are antiquated, so the code is not really up to today's what really happening in the world today. So we need code consultants for that. But we'll start with our architect, our structural engineer, anybody that we need from the ground up. So we'll hire our geotechnical engineers and then the mechanical engineers, because when you look at our budget, when we start to design, the biggest costs are going to be getting the building out of the ground and the foundation. Then you'll look at the structure, which we try to keep as light as humanly possible because more structure equals more cost. And then your mechanical systems, which is the heartbeat of the entire building, is another big component. So when you look at a construction estimate, your biggest costs are always going to be foundation, structure, mechanical systems, and then the skin envelope. And then and I call those our tier 1 or our tier A consultants, just because they're at the top of the pile and we need to engage them very quickly to help us define what we want as a business plan and a vision for the project on paper, to start documenting it so that eventually we could start doing cost estimates on that. After we have that big program and scope defined on paper, now we'll start to layer in the additional consultants that our design team needs.
I got to ask about the tier A consultants. Mm-hmm. Do you have them engaged in any formal way when you're trying to model a deal to figure it out? Do they offer you anything for an opportunity? How does that all pan out?
Awesome question. I'm going to answer this one in a cyclical way. When the winds are behind us, rates are low, there's a lot of deals out there, and everybody's really busy, sometimes you do have to seed. If you're really aggressive on a deal and you really want that deal, nothing's better than to have some due diligence dollars to engage the professionals to give you good quality work. Like that to me is always going to be the baseline. You're going to pay for what you get. In today's market where we have a slowdown in development because of what the capital markets are doing, we do form strategic partnerships with architects that we've had good success with before and that we know are good at that asset type. Those architects will partner with us to get to a deal because they want to build the vision. They want to build the project. They want to be part of it because A, they believe in our vision. They believe in us. We work well together. They trust us. We know how to manage them efficiently. And so we'll partner and they will give us services to help us get to a back of the envelope. Does this really pencil? Does this make sense? Are you looking at it a different way? So we do get a lot of that. We do get a lot of help from consultants that we've worked with for a long time, that I've personally worked with for over decades, and they'll be instrumental to help us figure out, are we in the right zip code with what we want to accomplish? But I think the best way to do it is seed it, fund it, pay for it, and get good quality work that you can stand behind and you have a high degree of confidence in.
You mentioned, there's a group that you've worked with and that I've got to imagine, quality work in the consultant space gets repeat business from you guys, right? It's important to have these relationships. Construction is anything but rinse and repeat, right? So you got to have a team that you can trust. What happens after your tier 1, your tier A consultants, right? How do you guys start to engage everyone else? Or do you rely on someone to do that for you?
It's a little bit of a mixed bag. So our path of least resistance is to work with our architect that has already worked with certain designers. So they've already worked with 2, 3, 4 lighting designers. And we'll talk about how that all gets selected because I got questions there. But they have relationships where they've done a good project or they're working with somebody and the architect will recommend, hey, let's get a proposal from these 2 firms. We also have our own relationships and we've also had a lot of success with a lighting vendor or an interior designer that we want to bring to the table. It depends sometimes the ego our architect has, right? Because designers, like a lot of humans, have egos, unfortunately.
Hey man, egos are great. You don't get cool freaking buildings like, down the street here at World Trade Center.
Touche, that's true.
The sticks up in Central Park. I mean, This city's full of egos.
Oh my goodness, the Northeast of New York, my God,
man.
is it full of egos?
Yeah, but that's your consultants, right? Mm-hmm. They're 25% of your budget. Then there's the construction costs. How fast do they ask you what your budget is? How fast can you tell them what it is? What are the three things that matter in that?
Yeah.
Before everything actually starts.
You hit a fundamental, or maybe I'll say systemic issue, because it takes us a while, or in my experience, it's taken a while to get alignment between what we underwrote and what we need this project to cost us per foot at the end of the day when we're built and we have to write that final check versus what we're designing. And it's such a three-dimensional chess game that you're constantly checking, verifying, battling, because it's like a circular reference. Because we went back to egos, right? The designers want to design a beautiful building, right? They need to design a beautiful building. Why? Because it's going to benefit the developer, because you want people to be attracted to that building. They want to be in that building. But now you got to balance it with budget. So early on, I tell the design team, you have to design a building to X per foot. But what does that really mean, right? You need a really good partnership between the owner, developer, the contractor who's actually going to be responsible to buy it and build it, and your designer who's got to document it on paper, and whatever they're documenting and specifying and designing has to fit within that budget. Now you add the layer of how many people I just talked about. So in 3 entities, you could probably be already talking about 60 people. Does everybody understand that vision? Does everybody understand that goal? And that's really where we add value, is managing that process. I can't tell you that we're a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 that we've said, I have to design a building to 450 a foot, and that's what it's designed to, because after we're done with paper and the contractor chews it up and bids it out and estimates it, they're like, you're at 580 a foot, and then we'll talk about value engineering or scope reduction or all that good stuff. We'll get to that.
Who sets the breakdown of the whatever? Let's just use $1,000. It's an easy number. Who sets the breakdown of $1,000 per square foot?
We at a high level will partner with a contractor early on to help us identify what some of the trade costs are. And when I'm saying trade costs, the concrete, the steel, the lighting, the mechanical systems. And so our contractor will say, look, it's all in hard cost to turnkey. This building is going to be $1,000 a foot. And they'll kind of guide us, what those line items look like. There's 200 a foot in the steel structure. There's 150 foot in the foundation. There's X in the interior finishes. There's Y in the mechanical. There's Z in the lighting system. So we'll partner early on with a construction estimate from a contractor that'll kind of itemize for us and guide us where they think those costs are coming in at a very early phase. I'm talking conceptual design phase right now, where we haven't really gotten really detailed, but we know what the volume of this building is, the height, we know the gross square footage, we kind of know floor plates, we know where the riser shafts are going to be. The contractor can get us pretty spot on what the budget looks like at $1,000 a foot, and then all the components that fit that $1,000 a foot. And now we're going to get to the next step, which is work with our design team to understand that budget and what they have to design to, because that's their kitty of money, and they can't or should not exceed that budget when we're putting pen to paper.
You called that the kitty, right? Mm-hmm. Do you circle like 2 or 3 things on every project that you're like, that's got to be that? Like, we're not budging, like how early on do you commit to like, this is one thing we're just not gonna do?
On multifamily, I would say it's a little bit easier. So for example, if we've built 500 multifamily rental units and we know each kitchen is $3,500 a kitchen, we're not going to let that line item budge and be like, that's going to be $5,000, because we've done that so many times. And in multifamily, we can do wash, rinse, repeat, depending on the market, depending on, are we a little bit above market? Are we at market? Or is this affordable housing? we know what each component of that unit should cost. So I would take the approach that as a developer, if I'm doing multifamily in a certain geography, I would pretty much dictate, no, I'm not exceeding $250,000 a door or a key or something like that. When it comes to commercial real estate in New York, or for that part, any part in the country, it depends if you're redeveloping a building, like we did Terminal Warehouse. It was an existing building that got redeveloped, or Blue Sky Construction, which is a new shiny glass office tower. I would say, personally, I always focus on structure, foundation, and facade. Not that I'm saying it can't exceed that, but I'm vigilant, very vigilant about those line items, because those are the ones that kind of drive the most cost. And then I may dig into the lighting line item, because I know that one has always given us the biggest waves, because
hold on. Yeah. We can't go there.
Okay, not yet. We'll go there later.
I think there's the core components of the building. There's a whole conversation around the interior envelope versus the exterior envelope, right? The reality is curb appeal matters.
Definitely, 100%.
But, once you walk in the door, that has to matter more. When we look at the collective of all of this, and we look at the opportunity to bring people into the space, there is that interior component. And as you mentioned, and as we all know, lighting is a part of that, but it's just a part of it. I want to get to it, but I just have one more question on big budgets before we just lose our minds for a second. Value engineering. There's no value in value engineering, right? There's so many caveats to this terrible term. Let's put it to the side and let's just talk about reducing cost for a second. Why, as a developer on a project, do you have to reduce the cost of what becomes the bid?
To me, value engineering is, I designed an Apple iPhone, but the Samsung does the same thing and the Samsung's cheaper. To me, that's an or equal, or your value engineering, right? You're getting the same technical experience and performance in a different version model that may not be as sophisticated or may not use the titanium plate or whatever, but it still serves the same function. So I never use value engineering for that same reason. I call it either scope reduction or just reduction in cost. And that's really driven by our returns, right? We have a yield on cost and we have a cash on cash return. And when we're looking at the financials and the financing of a project and what the returns look like, and there's an IRR. And so my philosophy or thesis on this is the heartbeat and all the arteries, the veins of the building that make it breathe, that make it live, that is the brain, that is going to be what it's going to be, because the building has to function. The building has to cool. The building has to heat. The building has to provide adequate lighting. It's got to do certain things. You got to be able to flush the toilet. It has to have fresh water. So those things you really can't compromise on, and you really want to optimize, because that's going to help you downstream in your operating costs and how your efficiencies are in the building. Where we try not to really reduce costs is, like you said, it's all about the employee. It's all about the individual. How do they feel in that space? Are they high performing in that space? We always look at these built environments to create the best high performing possible teams we can, because that's why companies want to be in the building. Reduction in cost could be triggered by various things. It was over designed by a designer or design team, which happens a lot. It could be a market condition. We could have had a tariff increase coming in from China on steel. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, we had that spike in aluminum, the spike in steel. We've had fluctuations in copper pricing, which have driven cost up. And then we've had supply and demand issues. So that may trigger us to pull cost out of the project. And then the final tier where we don't really want to remove is the customer or the tenant experience. We don't want to reduce costs in a lobby that's a detriment of getting people in the door to even look at the space. We don't want to minimize the outdoor spaces because we know how valuable that is to people, to have connectivity with the outdoors, to have connectivity with daylight. It'd be a shame to reduce cost here. It's that triangle. You're trying to balance quality, you're trying to balance cost, and you're trying to balance time. And then we have multiple other triangles. So it really is an art form, I want to say. What we do as a developer could be an art form because you have to balance these things at all times. And you have all these external forces. You have market conditions, you have interest rates, you have tariffs, you have supply and demand, you have contractors that go bust, you have suppliers that go bust, that drive up costs. So there's so many different variables, which takes us back to the contingency conversation we had earlier. Little side story, one of the partners, David, he's great. We designed the restaurant at 425. Restaurant spaces are different. So when we use that as an example later, although I would have loved to have cut cost and lighting, you can't. You can't. Because unbeknownst to me, you said at a restaurant, the lighting affects how the food looks. If it's got like a blue tint, people don't really like. There's a whole thesis and philosophy about the human brain interacting in a restaurant, how they consume food, how they see food, how it's presented, and how lighting plays into that. And you can't cut a corner there. I'm not saying that we cut corners in any building, but you do have to reduce cost. Cost reduction is like us waking up in the morning and breathing air in the developer world. But when it gets to restaurants, you can't do that.
It comes down to what matters most, right? So it comes down to the intent of the project. This is where design just crushes it, right? Like good design, well thought out design, time invested in design. You mentioned time is a key component of that. Yep. How do you value, time and money spent on design on the front end to try to plan for or know this is coming so you don't have to redo it all?
We spend most of our time, if I had to give you a percentage of time on a project that's 3 years long, 60 to 70% of my personal time is going to go in the upfront early stages. And it's covering everything. It's covering the teams from the particular, whether it's the contractor, our co-developer, our consultants, like who is on the project team, because that matters. An enormous amount of due diligence and planning goes into an asset and a building before we even put a shovel in the ground. And that even goes into design. So if time allows, my personal bandwidth time, I'd love to be heavily involved in schematic design and even a little bit into design development, because this is where we feel, and I personally feel, you really have to define things. Like construction documents is just to tweak, refine, and figure out details that weren't really defined in design development. But I'm not speccing and specifying items and products in CDs. I'm really doing that up front, because if you don't get it right early on and everybody's not aligned of what they need to do, things will go off the rails real fast. And to your point, depending on the project size, you're dealing with major dollars, and any redesign and going back to start costs you significant dollars.
In theory, like through design development only does like a whole spec book actually come available, right? So talk to me a little bit about your expectations and how you manage the consultants from like a performance spec to an actual product spec.
Love the question. And we could take this this has a lot of tentacles to it. Early on, we collectively, and when I say we, it's the contractor and the consultants, we're going to try to find out where's our biggest risk in the project that we're having a hard time defining. And that may be because of the geometry of the building. It may be because of some complexity in the building. It could be the foundation. It could be what we're trying to achieve at the top of the house, or it could be setbacks that we want to create because of amenities and experiences for the tenants. We are always creating buildings that it hasn't been done before, right? Everybody's always looking to push the envelope and bring something to market that hasn't been done, because you want to differentiate yourself. You want to bring the best product you can to market. You want to be the best in class. You want to differentiate, and you want tenants to come there. And so early on, we'll really work hand in hand in collaboration with the project team, which I call as the contractor and the design consultants. And the contractor is really going to guide and say, I don't understand this detail, or I don't understand the structure. So I need you to take it to this level of detail. It may be more than schematic design. It may be actually taking it into DD. It may be that this building has such specialty lighting requirements because of the space that the contractor says, I really need a heavy focus in the lighting package right now, because that one's going to have the biggest swing and variable. Because I could give you this end of the spectrum of lighting, because I just don't know what it is, or this end of the spectrum of lighting, which is going to be 5 times the cost. I think you need to be here because of the product you want to bring to market, and the vision of this project is so heavily on lighting. I'm just using that as an example. But we'll focus on what we know and what we don't know. And what we don't know, we want to get more granular and we want to get more intel on. If we want to get more intel on it, we're going to guide and advise the design team. I need you to focus more and elaborate that design. In this stage, early stage, I need more detail so I can get a better price, because that one has the most risk of fluctuating. Or we don't understand it enough. Therefore, the contractor's throwing a big number at it, and we have to refine and get that number down. Because if the contractor doesn't know what it costs, because they don't understand the translation from construction documents to an estimate, they have to protect themselves, because their fiduciary responsibility to me as the owner is, tell me what it really costs. You can't tell me later, oops, it's double because I didn't have enough detail. Well, that was your job to identify that early on.
Oops. I feel like that should be the title of this podcast. Yeah. Right? Construction, period, oops, exclamation point. It's just predictability, right? Mm-hmm. It's getting down to what can we predict? What do we have to predict? Yeah. What are we willing to let go a little bit longer?
I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you look at development globally, and you look at lighting as a part of the envelope, where does the marriage happen in terms of what you do and the consultants that practice that?
That marriage needs to happen somewhat mid-process of like your design documents, because, or maybe even earlier, maybe I would say even at the start of design development, at the end of SDs, because there's an operational aspect to how the lighting functions. Right, so we're going to have some technical characteristics of how the lighting and technical limitations of how the lighting operates, what it does for the built environment, how do we operate it, and then what does it cost? And to me, lighting is so specialized and unique that if you don't spend at least in my lessons learned has been, if you don't spend time on it early on and really understand it, and we'll get later into what really understanding lighting means, it could be very costly for you later, or you don't achieve the look that you were looking for. We'll use some examples here in terminal warehouse as well, because when you walk through the tunnel, it could have one scallop shadow effect, and it's not what the owner or we thought we were going to get. So then, okay, what achieves that? I don't know. That's where you bring the lighting designer on. So I do think I think systematically in the industry, we bring it in too late. And it causes a lot of ripple effects and issues that shouldn't. Because then we'll look at later who buys it, how do they buy it.
Why do you think it gets brought in too late? Just, I don't know. Why?
The average person, I would say, a light's a light. Oh, you have to light up that space? Yeah. Get a light. Without understanding that light has to be powered, which is probably the easier piece, right? The electrician brings a drop to it. But what is that light fixture illuminating? Is it illuminating workspace? That one's more predictable, I would say, because we're putting that in the ceiling grid. But what about all the other spaces? Lobbies, cafe spaces, outdoor spaces, illuminating the building from the street, a retail pod. These are all very, very different. And they're going to have different goals of how they want that space illuminated. We, the average person, just take that for granted. We're just like, just get a light, get a strip light, get a linear light, get a down light. but it's not that easy. And we'll talk about why that's not so easy.
I mean, it's a sweet freaking building, but if it's not lit cool or lit the way it needs to be, your billions of dollars of getting this thing ready literally are in the trash can, right? Now, I would say interior architecture plays an equally important component of that, right? There's a lot of incredibly talented generational talent in New York City when it comes to lighting design. A lot of the best lighting design has come out of the city and is still in this city. And a lot of them have, I think, different value they bring to it. But one thing that they all really, I know, believe in is lighting can be the glue of the interior part of a project. And so much of what a lighting designer's job is to do is to actually ask the questions that don't relate to lighting, to understand that vision, to understand what you see. Inevitably, you need a consultant around lighting design in the space. What's your process to get a lighting consultant on a project? How do you guys do it?
We all know the best price isn't always the best designer. So you got to dig into the people, what they've done, who you're actually getting. Do they understand it? Are they qualified? So it's a little bit of a hodgepodge. I actually like relationship-driven design because we've worked together before. They know what to expect of us. We know what to expect of them. It's not our first rodeo together. It's our third or fourth rodeo together. We've learned from lessons learned on previous projects, and then we can apply those to future projects. If we have a partner that requires us to competitively bid everything, obviously, if we don't bid it, I'll have a fiduciary responsibility to my company and our partners that we're getting the right price and we know if we're getting an unreasonable price or not. I like to work based on relationships that I've worked with before. And if we have enough work, there's enough to kind of feed everybody and keep everybody busy and engaged, because you want them engaged. You want good quality partners working with you, because it takes us time to get into a rhythm, to learn each other. How do you operate? That doesn't happen overnight. That happens over months, over years. And once you have that, you don't want to lose it. And so you'd like to work with the same people over and over again, assuming you have a good experiences. So we'll either select them relationship or we'll competitively bid it.
What about the new guys? I mean, there's always new talent. There's always growing people.
The person, right, is who's selling you to use them and why to use them, right? Because they just started off, maybe they did great work at the previous firm, so that's something they can go back to, right? I did these projects, have great references. Testing something new, again, I would say depends on the project size. Maybe there's a fit for that particular firm on a project where we have more predictability. We want to give them an opportunity. They have the right number, and our downside is not that significant because we can recover from it. And that may be an interior fit out, or maybe it could be a cafe upgrade that we're doing in a building or a property, or some back of house spaces. And then that worked well, and that could grow and lead to other stuff.
I love it. Just grow, right? Yeah. Give it a shot and grow. Throughout all of the last several minutes of this conversation, you mentioned, I want to work with someone that we know how to work together. Who sets the tone?
Who sets the tone on the project, I believe, is the leadership, right? It starts with us as the developer or the general partner or co-general partners. We have to empower teams, motivate teams, be leaders, and clearly communicate the vision and the goals of the project at all times. Things are going to go wrong. It's how you deal with when it goes wrong, and how you recover from that, and how you bring the right people to the table. I'm very against the dictator, it's your job, do this, do that, and slam, because what are you getting out of people at that point, right? I shut down when somebody's talking to me like that. But when we're all trying to work towards we're trying to solve a problem statement that we all understand, and we know what success means to you, to me, to the whole project team. It takes a lot of work to champion that. I think leadership always starts at the top, right? And in this case, it's got to be the developer or the sponsor that came up with the business plan, came up with the vision, and is responsible to execute that vision.
At the very beginning, you mentioned conviction. You've got to just have the conviction. You've got to raise that capital, that design. You've got to pour that into everyone you hire. I assume that just has to go downstream too, right? And people have to respond back to that. You mentioned a little bit earlier, you've had to learn how to respond to not necessarily knowing what everyone downstream is doing, and that's lighting. Where have you screwed up? What's taught you got to care more about what lighting is in a space?
Lots. And I've gotten bitten a lot with different lighting systems. I don't know if it's because I never asked the question. I just didn't know to ask the question. I didn't know I needed to ask that type of a question. So I've gotten bit on exterior linear lighting that is so important for the facade and for what that building looks like at night. And why was I supposed to know that the feed was coming either from the right or the left? Because there's two punch outs, but there was a tiny little box on the spec sheet that came from the supplier that said, hey, I need somebody to check that box because my default is to put it on the right. I don't know what you need, but it's so small and it's buried in this spec book. You hire a contractor, you hire a lighting designer, they all missed it. The light fixture came out with a feed on the left. And now I'm sitting with a $200,000 light fixture that somebody's got to either refab. Like, what do I do at that point? It costs $200,000. What do we do? Why I guess I need to study but every light fixture has it.
Whose job? I mean, yeah, that's a mess up. But don't you hire people to do that?
Yeah. It's the human error, right? You're right. Does the sponsor need to be, we're accountable because we're writing the check at the end of the day. And it's unfortunate. It's human error. It should really be good processes, quality control, and procedures in place to catch those things. But there's a lot of examples like that in lighting. Like I've done canopies, illuminating canopies. This is now back in 2016, and technology always evolves in the lighting industry. I mean, it's so fast. So what you're speccing out in 2016 or now in 2025 could very well change in 2027. And your project's in flight already. So now, like, what do you do? All the time. So I've done lighting. I've done projects where I'm trying to illuminate a canopy and there's a certain light fixture we have, or you want to work with a certain manufacturer, and we can dig into why we have to use that certain manufacturer. And it needs to be exterior grade, but they don't fabricate an exterior grade, but they can get a back box or they can get a frame from somebody else, integrate it into their lighting fixture, sell it to you. And then when something goes wrong, I don't know who to go to because they bought it from all these different places. But then I wanted to integrate with a fixture on the interior, and I want the warmth and the color and the tone to be the same on the inside as it is as the outside. But nobody told me the drivers have limitations. So if I go over 50 feet of cable, it's going to distort the lighting. Why do I have to ask these questions? And then our operations people don't know how to operate it because it's so complex and complicated. And there's drivers everywhere, and there's systems everywhere, and there's cabling everywhere. I know we as a developer needed to do a certain function. So we said to the design team, we would like this. And the architect also drives that a lot. The architect will drive what they want it to look like, the warmth that they wanted to give, or the brightness that they wanted to give. And then everybody else has to execute it. And then I think there's a little bit of the hiding, lying, and faking. People don't always like to say no because the person receiving it doesn't know how to receive no. But on the projects that I'm referencing, if somebody would have told me, no, Jamil, I know that's what you want, but you can't, it's too complicated to achieve that. I respect that person, but I don't think people say that enough. What you're trying to achieve, let me tell you what that really means based on the lighting products we have available to us in today's world.
You drive conviction on the mindset of the project. You expect your consultants to do the same. Drive conviction on what is perceivably possible, on what will work, on what you haven't done before and are going to have to test, and they're going to be the guinea pig, or they're going to have to pay for it, or they're going to have to push it forward. When you look at all of this stuff, I would just make the remark that everybody feels your pain when it comes to lighting. It's not just the person writing the check. It's the people selling it. It's the people manufacturing it. Construction's a build to order or made to order business. Yeah. Everything reacts to everyone. The ego seems to drive all of this. Do you feel like the technology and the quote cool aspect of design is becoming more predictable at this point? You have learned enough to demand those questions, or does it still just keep showing up?
I want to say it's like a 60-40. 40 predictable, 60 showing up. And I say that because we as sponsors and developers are always trying to push the envelope. So we want to do cool, creative, different things. We want to have big boards. We want to have big illumination. And I think technology is always evolving, and they're giving us new gadgets and they're giving us new things that lighting does that we're like, oh, I want that shiny new toy.
You do.
Yeah.
You do want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it looks great.
Yeah, that's
right?
the problem, right? You want the cool, shiny new toy. So how do you tailor your own expectations?
Yeah. Does it really apply to my application?
Can you? Will you?
Yeah, that's right.
No, because of everything you're doing that we've been talking about, like, hello, terminal warehouse.
Yeah.
One of it. You're not going to build another one of these.
That's right.
You're not.
I know. You're right.
Can't. Doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
Right?
Doesn't exist. I think on the commercial side, our brokers really appreciate how we light up spaces. I won't deny you that lighting is almost like it puts the finishing touch on a space. It can make or break a space. And our brokers, our commercial brokers that are out there leasing space for us, their job is to attract tenants and get us to a deal and get us to a lease. And they're our biggest critics in lighting and how it feels to walk into a space. It's too dark if the space is not meant to be dark. I wish I could mock up every space. I wish I could just buy the fixtures and mock it up every single time. And we did that for a very big project on Park Avenue. And you can mock it up and do full-size mock-ups, and the environments are different in the mock-up. They're never going to equal what they're going to be in situ. You have lighting, you have daylighting that comes in, and that makes the lighting react differently on the wall that you wanted to illuminate or on the floor that you wanted to illuminate. I don't know how lighting designers can actually give you that this is what it's really going to look like without looking at it 2D, 3D on a computer screen or a lighting model. It's very hard. Like, lighting is very in situ, right? It's got to be here. This is where you experience it. This is where you see what the lighting is doing. Like, even the lighting we have for this podcast, it's doing a special function, but I can't mock that up and I can't see that on a computer screen.
No, you can't. I mean, you have to trust, right? You do have to trust the profession of design. You do. What's your experience with lighting procurement? The love you have with it and the pain you have with it? Excuse me, pain?
I can't follow it. I don't understand it. I'll tell you why. Here's my rough basic understanding, right? So we are the sponsor. We hire a contractor. The contractor hires an electrician. Now we have some choices. Do we want to buy the light fixtures ourselves and save markups? You can do that. I don't know lighting. And so when it comes to buying that lighting in that little box that I was supposed to check that I didn't know to check, and I order 1,000 of those fixtures and they come up wrong, now I'm responsible. Unless I had someone like you or somebody with expertise in-house that could buy lighting all day long. And I'm kind of buying predictable lighting. That's not us. So we hire the GC. The GC tries to shed responsibility, right? They don't want their responsibility. So they're gonna shed that responsibility and risk over to the electrician. And they're gonna make the electrician responsible to buy the light fixtures. Now, electrician goes to a distributor or a supplier. The designer specs certain fixtures. Does that distributor, that electrician work with those fixtures, or do they get something equivalent? And here's where I start getting distorted. Well, they specified XYZ fixture, that's the name of the fixture, XYZ, but the distributor doesn't work with XYZ. They don't rep XYZ. They represent TYS. TYS is equivalent, but TYS has a quirk because the housing comes a little bit different and it has a flange that's 1/4 inch versus an 1/8 inch. And now the whole thing starts getting distorted. And then certain light fixtures that are specialty, my understanding is get assembled by a manufacturer. And so if that light doesn't work, now the manufacturer starts saying, yeah, but I only provided you the driver. I had to buy the housing and I bought this from somebody else, so I'm really not responsible. And I'm like, whoa, that just happened. I shut down. And now you have so many people in the market.
Yeah. I mean,
everybody does lighting.
And everything is sourced and assembled to an extent. You mentioned the word driver, and that's what really just had me howling laughing. Like side note, but gotta ask, how many projects, are you aware where someone's been like, hey, this driver's not working and we need a replacement, and you don't know where the hell to go to do it?
Yeah.
Is it happening?
It's happening. It wouldn't have happened except for this one project. And then
is it enough to pull your hair out?
It's absolutely to the point where
like pain in the ass, can't deal with this, don't want to.
Our
own
lighting designer is, I'm so sorry, Jamil, like I can't believe this is happening. And I dug into this much that I knew there's so many components coming from so many different people. And the lighting designer is like, we're executing your vision. This is what you wanted to do. This is what the architect wanted to do. This was the solution we came up with. But nobody says like, shoot, this was the wrong solution. This wasn't the right solution at that moment in time. So it's a myriad of things, right? It's a myriad of things. And
do you guys typically, you mentioned offloading risk and responsibility. Do you guys tend to take that path of offloading the risk and responsibility down the ladder to letting the channel take care of it, or
we do on paper because we have to, right?
We
do on paper, like we shed responsibility on paper because we have to do that for lenders, for our equity partners. We have to do that for ourselves contractually. But we know on paper and how you protect yourself contractually doesn't equate and relate to how you deal with the issue in reality. In reality, you want to solve the problem. You want to come up with a solution and you want to move past it, because the more you're sitting there litigating, fighting, you're losing time, it's costing you dollars, and you're nowhere nearer to a solution. And now it starts impacting tenants or lease up of a building or your operations folks. So you don't want to go down that rabbit hole either. And you want the people that specify it and buy it to take accountability and responsibility. We have a good thing where the lighting designers come in now and they do the scenes, like where they manipulate the light, they adjust it, they look at it. But again, I deal with that light's not doing what we wanted it to do. Why? Now you go back to the spec sheet. Well, there was this film or this cover that we needed to buy that was supposed to be on a 45-degree angle, but we bought the ones that are 90 degrees. It's too late now. It's too late. The light's installed. And now we'll get the right cover for it. But I need the electrician to come back, put a ladder, change 200 light fixtures in the lobby. Why did it get that far? Where was the controls beforehand? Again, it goes back to that spec sheet. It just, you go into this rabbit hole and it's always like you pay for it. You pay for it as a sponsor. I mean, yeah, you have insurance against lighting designers and stuff and architects, but does that really cover the cost? And by the time you actually recover a claim, you really needed to do the work. And it's just, why do we get into these positions? It almost needs, like, where I'm getting out of my conclusion, we've had so many issues with it. It almost needs the attention you give to the foundation or the structure or the facade. It needs that amount of detail to it.
Don't tell me that. I'm going to agree with you.
Especially now, even when we're starting to put lighting in facades and stuff like that. It's getting more complicated. We're doing more complicated things.
So you can acknowledge that lighting is becoming more complicated and sophisticated, but it's resulting in more vibrant, interesting outcomes that are inherently definitively important to the design fabric as opposed to an accessory of it.
I agree. because people see it, people feel it, people walk into the space, and lighting is like it is one of the biggest things. If it's not illuminated properly, space is going to look crappy.
So from a procurement standpoint, as the sponsor and owner of the project, is that now something you want to be closer to?
I do. I still need to get educated on it, and I have more of the right questions to ask now more intelligently early on to avoid those pitfalls. I don't know them all because I haven't experienced all those pitfalls. Things like this kind of help people. I do want to be more intimately involved because even as I get more into the multifamily, even the hospitality and the restaurants, I'm learning and experiencing how important illumination is. 10 years ago, to me, illumination was more for the employee at the desk, but it's much more than that. It's all the amenity spaces, all the common areas where people either gather. It's bringing attraction to the building when you're driving down the West Side Highway. If that's not illuminated properly, it's not going to draw the eye to that space. And so it is really the makeup, the beauty that really comes into a space. And even talking to you, I'm appreciating it more. I really am. Because it is important. It's if the space is not lit properly, it's not going to look good.
And in your experience, I don't want to take any words out of your mouth, but I'm just kind of drawing the conclusion. In your experience, so many things have gone wrong, even though everybody, quote, has been hired and you've de-risked it by leaving it to them, that you can't help but now get back involved and treat that more like, not only do I need to know what it's costing, I need to know where it's coming from. Yeah. I need to know why we're doing what we're doing. And that is time and money to you, but it's worth it. All right. Your favorite story about lighting, good or bad? I don't care. What is it?
I'm going to go with bad.
Great.
I don't want to be project specific, but I'll give you details. We have this building and we wanted to create a beautiful magical moment at the top of the building through these illuminated fins. And it's not a go to a catalog, order it. It doesn't exist, even though we have these beautiful LED screens all over Times Square and we have them all over the world, right? Well, we do this exterior fin. The lighting manufacturer that was responsible to fabricate this grid with these LED nodes and buy the cabling was hired by the electrician that worked for the general contractor. This lighting vendor never did this before, had the shop drawings of what to do and how to do it. They developed them, but they went to somebody else for that metal grid. I think it was out of Canada. Because this wasn't in their wheelhouse, they missed the material that was fabricated and purchased was noted as one thing on the shop drawing, wasn't what actually came out to the site. So we had all issues with wind and snow. Then that cabling that was purchased was specified for exterior grid cabling. But then how do you know that the cabling manufacturer, like what was the quality control when it was coming off the spools? Did you get the right cabling, or was there a malfunction in the manufacturing process where now we have stuff corroding and we have these LED nodes? And again, it's just why am I in the middle of this? Why am I figuring this out?
It's
because it's our building.
Because you're paying for it.
Because we're paying for it.
Because you care. Nobody else cares about all of it. They just care about their part. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. That linear light fixture was a project for a personal friend. And this light fixture, it wasn't $200. It was actually like $47,000. That's how much these two linear strips cost. If that's my personal project, that's a lot. I'm not going to just cut another $47,000 check. Now that means I've paid $90,000 for this fixture, almost $100,000 for this fixture to get it refabricated. Luckily the supplier stepped up. And the supplier was like, my relationship with Jamil is way more valuable than a $47 issue. So I got to figure this out because someone missed it on this spec sheet, because I got the spec sheet and it literally had to put reading glasses on it. I don't know why spec sheets are so small, but they're very technical. They're very, very technical. You got to know what you're looking at. You got to read the whole thing. I don't have the patience for that, but people get paid to do that. That's someone's job. Care about that, right? Look at it. Look at the housing material, look at the light fixture, look at the ballast, look at all the components, and does it work? And then does the wiring that was brought to it work as well? Some of this stuff has low voltage in it. So it's complicated.
You know so much about lighting. It's incredible. And you're still running into problems.
Yeah.
Thank God we got this big long table here. We need we need a board meeting on this conversation because lighting is so complicated. I think the industry's done it to itself. I don't think anybody had the intention of it getting to where it's gotten, but it has. And there is a strong need. By the way, nobody's going to standardize. Everybody wants their own competitive edge, but there's a strong need for design to demand quality. Mm-hmm. And there is an even stronger need for the owner, people in your chair, to say, I'll pay more for the less fancy light, for the more quality tested, simplified system.
Yes.
Like reward simple technology, not advanced technology.
100%.
Is that fair to say?
Very fair to say.
Okay. This is my favorite part of this conversation. We're going to switch chairs. Because I know that you have questions. And I can't guarantee any answers.
Okay.
But I'm going to try.
Okay.
Does that sound good? Okay.
The best part of this thing.
All right. Let's go.
I'm doing these rapid fire. You got 20 seconds to answer each one.
Okay, introduce yourself. You're the host. No,
My name is Jamil Lacourt. I'm new to podcasts. This is my first name.
You host the podcast now? It's your job. I'm out of question mode. Okay. I want to be genuinely a resource to you and any question you have. My background in 10 seconds, architectural engineering degree from the University of Colorado at Boulder with a specialty in illumination engineering. I worked as a sales rep. I worked as a lighting designer. I ran a marketing firm. I also worked for multiple lighting manufacturers and a conglomerate that has a presence globally in Europe and North America. I've made money. I've lost money doing it all. But I love lighting. So what questions can I answer?
Okay, so first question.
Yes.
We're sitting here in this space at Terminal Warehouse. There's a light fixture above us right now. Mm-hmm. And in my experience...
It's missing a light bulb.
Yeah, it's missing a light bulb. And in my experience, there's, call it 15 different manufacturers that make something very, very similar. Mm-hmm. And so I understand there's a competitive edge, but at what point is too many lighting manufacturers that manufacture that same light? I'm just hypothetically saying there's 15 of those. What causes somebody to say, oh, I want to be the 16th person to manufacture the same thing? And then second, how do lighting designers out of 15 vendors that manufacture a similar light work with 3? Or how do they choose to work with who they work with, given there's so many options out there?
Okay, 2-part question. The first part is, why are there 15 versions of the same light? And the second is, how does a lighting designer choose who they work with? Great. How much time you got? Do you have a car? What kind of car do you have?
I have a Genesis.
You have a Genesis. That's a Hyundai, right?
Yeah.
Hyundai?
Yeah.
Why'd you buy your Hyundai?
Ooh.
Yeah,
Oh. So I love, it's a luxury vehicle. I love how it drives.
Does it have 4 wheels?
It does.
Okay. Does it have 4 doors?
It does.
There's some windows that go up and down? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that make cars out there.
I love it.
Okay, but you bought the one you bought because?
I love it, yeah.
You love it. There's a brand, there's an experience, there's something that connects you to it, right?
Okay.
So that could be like as simple as why there's 15 lights out there. But that's not the answer, right? There's 3 things that go into, by the way, I just want to describe this. This is like a 6 to 7 foot dome. It's a semicircle. It's pendant hung with a chain. There's a junction box about 10 feet away from it. The power cord weaves through it. There's literally a socket with 3 lamp sockets. There's no integrated LED or anything special. This is cheap, by the way. Like, this is not the most high-end version of this. This is not a Hyundai. This is a Honda Civic version of this, right? So I think, to me, there's 3 reasons why this light has 14 different manufacturers that make, quote, the same thing. Is it in the throwaway category? Is it in the category that needs to last a while? And then the third one, my favorite one, is it in the category that just needs to have everything available? And you're willing to pay for that because it's exactly what you want when you want it. Triangles, we were talking about them earlier. Cheap, fast, and good. You want a good light fixture quickly, ain't gonna be cheap. You want a cheap light fixture, right? That's good. It's probably not gonna show up fast, right? At the end of the day, there's the practical nature of where that comes from, how it's formed, this cheap 3 lamp in here, and that's it. And then, like, you can create your own user preferences around it. Maybe what lights you put in it, what color they are, whether they're LED retrofit or incandescent, whether or not there's an intelligent thing in that lamp, and you're going to control it on your app on your own. And by the way, you got to figure all that out. Versus in the specification grade world, right? You, like, something like this, you can literally buy on the internet. You can go to ylighting.com. You can go to whatever. You just type this in and you literally buy it. By the way, the chain is only going to be 6 feet. That's it. You're not going to get more. You're not going to get less. You can't even find another 6-foot chain to attach to it, right? So it's like super limited, but because of that, it can be produced in high volume. It's cheap, but maybe that serves the purpose, right? Let's talk about that next version, the luxury version. You know the building and the space that's going to be in there has to be there for 15 or 20 or 50 or institutionally 100 years. What's the material, right? How's that material going to stand up in shipping? Because we're not shipping it again, because everything in this project gets one shot to go in. What's the light source in it? Is that light source something that can be modified over time? Is that light source something that I, the designer, need to specify, as opposed to giving you, the user, the option to screw whatever lamp you want into it, right? So that's a luxury, right? That's a nicer product, fit and finish. Now let's go to my chain and how long it is example. That third category, options. And I need it in 6 weeks. If you have this light in Terminal Warehouse and you want to put it on the next 3 projects that are nothing like this, but you love this light, I need options for chain. I need options for integrated LED. I need options for a color ring around it. I need uplight on it because the space is exposed. There's all these things. Oh, by the way, can this one be silver and this one be not one of the 3 options you have? Can you just like paint this the color I give you? And by the way, you can't powder coat that color, so you need a wet paint it, even though that's not what you do as a manufacturer. So you're gonna have to send that out. Do you have the logistics for that? So I think it's like all the optionality around the opportunity to make that light what you want it to be versus buy it as is and let the what you see is what you get fit into your space. There's concessions between the two. It's the opportunity cost of making that available to you. We are the most manual industry. There's no robots building lights to my knowledge. It's all people. Every time you add, I mean, you've been making fun of spec sheets forever. Every time you put another, box on a spec sheet, the price goes up 3%. I'm making that up. But it's like the opportunity for us to be able to do everything you want to do. Now, here's the interesting part, right? I think the lighting industry is trying to figure this out. Most lighting manufacturers are small family-owned businesses that are privately held that are doing between $10 and $50 million in revenue a year. Okay. Tiny, right? The biggest lighting manufacturers out there, $2, $3, $5 billion in revenue a year, and they're doing 65 to 80% of that in consumer goods. Commodities, strip lights, troffers, the simple parts of the control systems, the linears in the offices, so on and so forth. So which way does lighting need to go, right? That small boutique feeling gives you all that optionality, but that's where all your problems come from. You think they know everything about everything? No, they got to source everything. They got to get it all. So and then we talk about your ego and your interests.
Yep.
And how you never want to do the same project twice, Mr. Developer. You want to make something sweet. You want to be awesome, unique, and original and charge a premium for it. Yeah. Pay for it.
That's right.
Get your luxury. Get all your options.
Got it.
Or just live with what you have and hope to God that people don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question on why there's 14 versions?
It does.
Because there's one more part to it.
Okay.
There's the relationship-driven part. So this feeds into your second question.
Okay.
In the world of specification lighting, the go-to-market strategy is such that there's all these tiny little manufacturers out there that I mentioned. They don't have a sales force. They have a factory somewhere. They hire 3 or 4 people. And those are the sales managers of the company. We call them regional sales managers. Okay. Sometimes there's a national sales manager. There's also sometimes a national account sales manager. The national sales managers and the regional sales managers do just that. They go around and they talk to every lighting designer, every engineer, every architect. But they don't do that on their own. They do that through their local representation in the market.
Okay.
So...
Is that a distributor or?
No, it's a manufacturer's rep.
Got it.
So you have the manufacturer, then you have the manufacturer's rep, which is a direct extension of the manufacturer.
Okay.
They run on 30-day contracts, and their job is to be the sales and marketing arm of that manufacturer in the local market.
Got it.
Calling on everybody involved in the project. So let's just pick terminal warehouse since we're in it, right? I see some cylinders over there, right? There's a cylinder manufacturer. They have a rep here locally in New York City. Okay. That rep knows the lighting designer for this building, the general contractor for this building, and the electrical contractor for this building. Okay. Definitively, they have relationships with all of them because the designer has questions, the contractor has questions, the owner has questions. You call the rep, not the manufacturer. Okay. You don't call 1-800-cylinder. Yeah. If you do, they're going to send you right back to 1-800-cylinder's local representation. Got it. The distributor is over here.
Okay. I want to go there later.
And we're going to go there. Do you know how many reps are in New York City? I think there's I'm going to put an asterisk next to this. I think there's 14 or 15 lighting reps.
Okay.
So if there's 14 lighting manufacturers, it's because there's 14 reps. Maybe not the best example. Yeah. Across the country, there's 3 or 4 or 5 lighting reps in every major market. Okay. And
representing different manufacturers.
You're a developer on bid day. You want a competitive price on that. We talked about VE. An easy way to VE is to get the same thing from someone else. You talked about XYZ versus TPS or something like that earlier, right? What happens is you can call rep from A and get a price, and you can call rep from B and get a price, and you can call rep from C and get a price, but you want the same thing.
Yeah.
So your desire to have a competitive price breeds the same person making this.
Got it.
But of course, it can't be the exact same.
Yeah.
Why? IP, value proposition, all these other things,
Sure.
right? So there's just like slightly different nuances.
Subtle differences.
Dude, there's literally manufacturers out there who just rip off other people's products for this exact reason.
Sure.
You're like, hey, I just want a better price. Here's where it gets crazy. You ready for this? You mentioned it earlier, relationships. People have who they want to work with. Of course. I'm not going to even get into explaining why.
Yeah.
But we all have people we just want to do
100%.
business with. Let's just say Rep A can sell like 80% of the lights, or maybe only 20%. But the guy building your building just gets along with Rep B better. And you know that like there's 14 different versions of it. You're just going to call Rep B. That's a problem, right? What happens if that relationship, part of the project, isn't known?
Yeah.
When you're working with your design consultant team. Somebody's got to do all the work again. Somebody's got to take all those spec sheets from Rep A and put them in Rep B.
Ooh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And when they put them in Rep B, the designer's like, well, why are you making me do all this work again?
That's right. Yeah.
Like, I spent all this time to get it right. So like, well, the answer is this guy works with this guy better, and he just, then you have to start calling the question like, well, am I getting the price that I want to get?
That's right, of course.
Or am I getting taken advantage of here when it's changing hands? And I know that's silver and it's 42 inches, but I was supposed to have an integrated LED module in there, and I don't.
Got it.
And you're telling me that my facilities guys now got to go source lights for those and change them?
Yeah.
Versus what I thought I was paying for a premium integrated product that has a 50,000 hour life on it. This leads into your second question, like how do people choose who they want to work with? Well, there's all kinds of opportunity to say this, designers have an opportunity to go learn. Yeah, right. Because you pay them to learn. You pay them to do their job, which is design.
That's right.
So
not learn on the job.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like, you pay them for their expertise. Well, where the hell do you think they got their expertise from? From the last 4 jobs you hired them to do, or the ones your competitors hired them to do. I mean, not everybody goes to school for 30 years.
Sure.
Like, they got to work. You learn on the job.
That's right.
But you're not going to, if a client sends you like a proposal and then puts 20% on top of it to say learning while working for you, you going to sign that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you should.
No, oh my God.
Right? Like, maybe
it'll come out of your fee. You can learn, but it's going to come out of your number.
Yeah, exactly. No, they're going to say, no, we want to pay you to learn on the job. And then, of course, maybe then they take what you paid them to do and go apply it to
the next, they are the client.
The next deal, who's your biggest developing competitor, right? Everybody's got to learn somewhere. So I think what designers do is they rely on the market to be educated. They definitively find their own ways to workshop. Everybody puts time back into their own studio and space, and they collaborate and do charrettes and teach from each other, and they go to continuing education conferences and whatnot. But like, a large part of what happens is, in this relationship-driven world, people walk in the door and say like, hey, here's this cool new optic. And I think the problem therein lies, people are educating the design community, but they're educating them at the expense of promoting what they have. Got it. So then someone has to sift through all of that. Sure. But like, if someone comes with like a good technical presentation and an educational statement and piece on why this product works the way it works, and then that can be applied to the design vision that you and the architect have, let's use it. Let's work with it.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
That's right.
Here's what's really interesting. When that starts to happen, all those people that are educating and specifying and supporting that opportunity, they're compensated based on an order.
Mm-hmm. Not based on
not the opportunity, right? So they're doing all that out there, hoping for a purchase order, and that's
right.
That's where just like a ton of value can come in on saying, let's not VE something that's as complicated as lighting.
Sure.
Like, let's just go with it as specified. New York City, I'll tell you right now, is actually pretty strong in quote holding spec.
Okay.
Elsewhere in the country, I know you've done business outside of the state of New York. Not so much.
Yeah.
Rep A needs to sell everything. Why? You really want to call 4 different reps?
Mm-hmm.
No, you don't, which is why the distributor exists.
Okay, let's go there.
Right? So let's stay in New York City.
Okay.
Right? You've got a fixture schedule with 20 products from 20 different manufacturers.
Okay.
There's 4 different reps because not every manufacturer picks the same rep.
Okay.
When it comes time to buy the order, you don't want to like write 4 different checks. You want to write one check. So the one check goes to the electrical distributor. The electrical distributor provides not only the lighting, but the wire, the pipe, the switches, the controls, the electrical for the mechanical, blah, blah, like all electrical. Now, because lighting's so freaking complicated, distributors are popping up, and there's some prominent ones in New York City that do just lighting and lighting controls. They don't distribute anything else electrically.
Okay.
Just lighting and lighting controls. But it's still coming from like 4 or 5 different reps, right?
So they're assembling it from different people because you picked okay, I got it.
Yeah. So why people work with who they work with, I think depends a lot on figuring out all these problems, getting answers to questions, but also the opportunity to become educated, and then also say, well, like, hey, you helped me figure something out, and I know you spent time doing that, and the only way you're going to get paid is if I
you get
use
an
your
order.
stuff.
That's right.
So there's a mutual respect there. I'll be honest, a lot of specifiers don't understand that. They think all these people are just coming in to say hi.
Yeah.
But like, but then like as a salesperson, as a manufacturer, as someone who's building something, when the opportunity is there,
you have to,
and
you have to sell. And
then they engage with you, and then it works. It becomes actually almost more tight knit.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I can make money with you, and hey, and you're giving me what I need to support this, right? Then you have to understand that there is a relationship there, but you have to keep it honest, right? That's a locked in opportunity. So then I think as an owner, you have to you have to understand where those relationships are, and are you being leveraged for the simple fact that Jenny and Tom are just pretty good friends.
Yeah.
It doesn't really happen, to be
Sure.
honest, but it's just something to be
But just the transparency about that. Like in my stage of my life right now, less is more. And I like to keep things as simple and simplistic as possible. And maybe it's because I never asked the question directly, like I just asked you. I think I have. And I've never gotten a response like that. I believe, A, because the person that was giving the response didn't want to shed negative light on different reps. Maybe because there was that relationship, and if they gave me too much, I'd ask more questions, and then I'd be like, well, why aren't we not going to that person? It's always been, and I have these experiences even within my organization with a colleague of mine. I always get calls like from a friend, oh, I can give you that light, or, I'll meet a lighting rep at a golf outing or something, and they'll be like, oh yeah, we can do all those lights. And then I tell my colleague, oh, I just met this guy. Oh, they're full of crap. No, I'm going to use this person. And it's like, wait a minute, how do we even get to this conversation? Why are we talking about all this competition and who's who and who's not? I tried to buy lights years ago. I was trying to get a quote for one of our projects, and I called this rep. Call the rep, or I call the consult. Yeah, I think it was the rep. And like, oh, I have to call somebody else first. Did they know you just called me? And I'm like, oh my God, why is this so complicated right now?
Because they all mark everything up. So the manufacturer has a distributor net price, is what they call it. But the light leaves the building. The manufacturer has a cost plus their service.
What it costs them to produce that, right? And all their manufacturing,
they have a
markup.
set cost, by the way. They don't have a set cost. Like everything's negotiable, especially if you're building a 1 million square foot building. Right? If they know they can run production line for 2 weeks and they don't have to switch the paint booth and they don't have to hire temp workers because you're reliable, like they can manage their costs around your expectations because everything's built to order. Mm-hmm. Everything's negotiable in lighting.
Yeah, okay.
There's no set pricing, I promise, especially with the tiers of markup. But manufacturer's cost, that rep who I mentioned, they work on commission. No, they don't. Commission's like 8 to 16%. Nobody's making money on 8%.
Yeah. That's right.
They have to have additional markup on it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's negotiable.
Okay.
Then the distributor, who we mentioned, who assembles the package from all those reps, who you're writing the check to, has to do work. Mm-hmm. Where the hell are they making money?
They're going to mark it up.
What, they're going to send you a bill for my time?
Yeah.
No, they're just going to tell you what the material costs.
That's right.
Because that's the easiest way for them to, quote, be transparent.
Okay.
How transparent is it?
Yeah.
It's not, because you don't know where it started and where it ended.
That's right.
But what you do know is it fits your budget. This is where the consultants come in huge, the lighting consultants, because they should be able to budget the job up front and get, quote, the price. And they can understand the market and and anticipate
and
the
all
markups.
those markups that come along
that's
with
fine.
it.
Where this all goes to hell in a handbasket is when you say, give me rep A, not B. And it goes backwards, and everybody knows there's change coming, but quote, this price was accepted.
Okay.
Even worse if you give them a target.
That's right. I just learned something today.
What you should do is say, hey, I want to add 10 more of these. Give me a cost. Say, just kidding, I want to get rid of 10. Dead serious.
Yeah.
You want an honest answer?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to lose the job. Everybody wants to keep the job.
Yeah, everyone wants to keep the job.
So when you go for alternates, when you go for VE, when you go for different things, people now know what they're playing with. And there's all these markups there, and they can, so they do. Mm-hmm. It's not like they're trying to take your money. Mm-hmm. They just can. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you don't know. And you're also okay with it, by the way, because you're getting what you need.
That's right. And if it fits the budget, it fits the budget. And like you said, where things go sideways is if I want rep B instead of rep A, or I forcing the team to cut costs in different areas, and then they're doing that on their own, and it just kind of unravels.
Best pitch I've ever heard out of a lighting designer: my fee will save you the overrun on your lighting procurement.
I like that.
By the way, that designer ain't cheap, but they save, and they work predominantly for a developer, actually, based out of the Pacific Northwest and in Denver. And their work's incredible.
And that's great because they understand probably everything you're talking about.
They do. And I'll also just tell you, like, they're kind of ball busters in the channel.
Yeah.
Like, they really drill down on the pricing.
That's great.
They really make sure, but like, that's also a commitment directly from the developer early to give them a budget that they won't VE. Like your conviction that you were talking about earlier, right? Like if you're like, this is the budget for the lighting, and by the way, I am going to treat it like the foundation package. It's not changing. Lighting designer designed a budget, and I'll hold the spec, and you will too. I will definitively tell you that is the best way to get what you want.
Yeah.
And yeah, you go play golf, and it's like, hey, I can sell you that light package.
That's right.
I mean, dude, a dome's a dome, a pendant's a pendant, a cylinder's a cylinder.
Agreed.
I'll be completely honest with you. Like, the nuances don't really matter.
That's right.
The multiplication of it is because of all this technology, and also the fact that there is the competitive need for you to price things. And you're not getting the price of the light, you're getting the price of the light plus the service included in it. And guess what? If somebody else went and did all the design and all the work and all the coordination,
they'd pay you. They'd want to get paid for that too. And
then I didn't do it, but I have the same product and I can do 40% of the work, but charge you only 10% less. I make way more.
That's right. Interesting.
And I gotta be honest, like when you're overrun in a market like this and rates are up and you need to save money, you can leverage that system and you will have problems. But if you're smart about it, maybe that's how you save money. You take it away from someone else. You totally screw them, by the way. But you got the next building and they're coming back.
Yeah.
So there's an interesting cyclicality to that,
right? And the nuances, the ins and outs that I never really understood. Like even with the distributor conversation, I remember working in for public entities, financial services firms, and procurement's huge. And I mean, we would buy thousands of light fixtures, either for retail bank branches or interiors. And I remember our procurement teams would, I think at that point, they would get the introduction by the rep, but then the distributors were all the ones pricing everything out. And then just the questions that they were asking, I'm like, oh my God, why are we going to this level of detail? And I got it now. It's because you're saying the distributors, they kind of mark up based on the work that they're putting in to get you the package, the whole kit of parts, but they just give you material prices. But the procurement guys were like, but wait a minute, we know what this metal costs. It's a piece of metal, like, and you're assembling all these things. And how is that comparable to that guy? It's the same metal. You're charging me $2. This guy's charging me $1, but it's this. So all those nuances, everybody charges a different number. I get it. It's like very similar to the furniture industry, which is another one I never really liked, or hardware. Now I'm getting a little bit more comfortable in lighting, thanks to you. You're making it a little bit more, not as complicated for me.
It's complex, right? I think you're learning that, and it sucks. And I said earlier in the podcast, but like everybody's still trying to figure this all out. Recently, there's a couple podcasts we put on the platform, and they talk all about this replaceability and how like our industry built a bag of goods that was supposed to work and isn't, and companies have been sold or they're gone or whatever. So like we got our hands full as an industry with issues, and what sucks is like it's your building and the warranties are gone, and
that's the thing too.
And you're stuck with it.
They gobble up these smaller firms. And there's just so many of them out there too. You could go to bigger, more premium manufacturers who either have more capital or are more simplified in their solutions. Yeah. But maybe you don't get all the technology. But my honest opinion is like you can just challenge a designer to say, use less. That's right.
Design simpler.
Yeah.
Can we do that a different way?
That's right.
I feel like if you sit in a design critique, and instead of like being wowed by the shiny barricade, you'd be like, so is there a way we can do that simpler? Yeah, exactly. And challenge them. And by the way, like with conviction, pay them to evaluate that more. Yeah, your 75-25 split might shift more in lighting.
But you're avoiding all those
But you're avoiding everything
things later.
Down the line.
Yeah.
And that to me is what like good and great designers really do.
Great.
It's not come up with,
that was my next question, which we're talking about right now, which is awesome.
As a good friend of mine who works in Chicago, he's a partner at a design firm. He's been there for like 35 years. He said 10% of it's design, 90% of it's coordination.
Wow. That's an amazing metrics to know.
Let's be honest, right? Like creative ideas are creative ideas.
Sure.
What's his name? He was on Shark Tank. Mr. Wonderful. Oh. He said good ideas are a dime a dozen, but good luck executing them.
That's right.
And what's next?
We answered 3 questions. The last one was, what makes a good lighting designer? And I think you really used some great examples of how they get into the process, how they manage it, how they drive that. And then my other question was, which we talked about when do I think we should be inserted in the process as a sponsor or developer? And we talked about that as well, right, early on. And I love the 90-10, 90 coordination, which really goes into like planning. If you plan things right and you know how to execute, you most likely will have a good, successful outcome. And I think understanding the 90-10 is huge.
And I think you as an owner and a developer, you have to ask the tough questions.
Yeah.
You have to say, have you evaluated all the product options? Are you using a product based on a relationship, not the best option? And if so, why? It's okay.
Yeah, that's right. Just be transparent about it. Yep. Be
Just
honest
tell me.
about it.
There's, like, again, nothing wrong with it. But
Exactly.
You just need to be aware.
That's right.
Right? Of your design and creative process, what can we change? What can we find a more cost affordable option for when the inevitable happens? Can you identify that on your Luminaire schedule ahead of time?
Great.
But again, like, do that when people are sending you their fees.
Yeah.
Is this is all this included? It's not. Why? Do you know what you're doing? Like, ask these tough questions because, and then I guess just be ready to pay for when they say, well, that's more time and effort, right? I also think, I've floated this out there to designers, and I don't know if anyone's doing it, but typically, like, you probably get a design fee around a project. Why don't you ask for design fees based on deliverables? And like force people to give you a complete set of deliverables.
And itemize that in the proposal.
And like that could be to the extent that like they don't know if they're getting what's next. You would have to be, I think, a lot more articulate in your RFP.
Sure.
But like if you guys went and put like a 14-step deliverable RFP together for lighting design.
I like that.
As opposed to just like,
give me a price per project for phase.
Yeah.
No, it's going to be
like,
it's going to be tangible. It's going to be deliverable focused.
And like we were talking about, like you can't visualize it. You could put like 2D renderings, 3D renderings, fly through animation, and they have to break all that out. And then maybe like you do want to pay for that for this particular project.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the answer is, I trust you and I'm saving.
That's right. That's right.
And then
that's right.
like they're happy. They're still doing all the work. They're still, putting their profit accordingly speaking. It's like create more transparency in design fees. There's nothing wrong with that. And tell people like, hey, fair market value, like mark it up.
That's right.
You gotta make a living, but like I'm hiring you predicated on nothing going wrong with the lighting.
Exactly.
And you could even like, there's an acronym for it. I'm gonna mess it up, so I'm not gonna say it. I'm just gonna describe it. But like you could, I think also with your consultant fees, look at saying, give me your bid, make it healthy for you. And then go select your consultant and say, I'm withholding 10% of your fee contingent on like no more problems in this trade, not exceeding this or this, right? And like give them skin in the game.
I like that. Like we would with a contractor.
Bingo.
We hold retainage.
Yeah.
We just don't do that on the consultants.
And like you could withhold, 10%.
Yep.
And then you could put like an extra 5% of the project cost into the consultant general bucket. And like, if the project goes well, you can
incentivize them. And
you can literally like distribute rewards.
That's right. That's
like not only do you get your 10%, but we did so good. Everybody get 2% on top. I think there's, and I'm not in the contract world, and I also don't know how much I'm pissing everybody off right now with this suggestion.
No, but it's creating a win. It's creating a platform for success.
But I think, the stronger that team is, the stronger the risk actually isn't de-risked, but centralized to the point. And like, I'll leave you with this, my dream for lighting genuinely is an owner net price where like the price leaves the factory for what you, developer, Mr. Owner, is going to buy it. And it has the 60, 70 or 80% markup
that it needs
baked into it.
Yeah.
And everybody gets to quote fight over that, but there's more regulation behind it. I think that's pretty hard to do in lighting, considering how fast it changes, all the nuances. The more I think about it in this conversation, like in the ego-driven environment, everything's always going to have to change, and nobody actually wants to buy this cheap light unless they're just going to throw it away, which is not the majority of construction. Not at the level you and I are talking about. We're talking about high-end spec grade stuff. I don't know. I mean,
I love it. I like that.
There's a lot of questions, I think, that are on you guys. And I think you should redefine your RFP process.
I like that.
And let lighting designers come in and, I mean, one lighting designer might be really good at conceptualizing and like super talented and advanced in that
and
place.
Another one's
but
awesome at coordination.
But they don't really like project management.
Yeah. So maybe it's 2.
Maybe it's 3.
Yeah.
I don't know. Lighting designers do partner a lot.
Okay.
You know, and I think about earlier, like I asked about like, well, what about the young and upcoming people, right? Maybe you want the creative vision as someone who has 30 years of experience and has tried all these amazing things. And you're like totally happy to write them a check for that. Mm-hmm. I mean, dude, those are the best jobs in the design world. The jobs that get designed, but quote, never built. Mm-hmm. And if you just hired like a coordinator, and that could maybe be like someone who's more junior or more programmatically based or more engineering focused.
Sure.
And we'll dive into the nuances and the weeds.
Yeah.
But like, God forbid you pay them to be creative. I don't know.
Yeah. But look, it's a start to solving the problem. And I think you've proposed some great suggestions and ideas that I'm definitely going to
think about.
I'm going to practice them. We're going to test those out.
I love it.
This is great.
You're going to have to tell me about it.
I will.
I hope it's not the last conversation you have on lighting. I hope it's not the last conversation we have.
I hope not. I'm really liking the synergy here.
But I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for showing up and being open and honest and vulnerable.
Appreciate that.
Sharing, you know, your mindset, what drives you, how you think. Mm-hmm. It's a critical conversation to the lighting community. And I also think that it's a critical moment in our industry where lighting has to care more about everything, not just itself.
Agreed.
And this helps do that.
Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Great spending time with you today.
Terminal warehouse is sweet. Hopefully I get to come back and see it when it's all completely built out.
Yes. And we have some tenants in here.
Yeah. Good luck with everything that you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Catch up more soon. Thanks, Jamil.
Thank you very much, Sam. Appreciate it.
See ya.